Yo, what's up? It is TI/TS Delle here. We're back with another reading of Ron Johnson's Transhuman Genocide, Enemy at the Gate today. Today is November the 17th at 4:10 p.m. or 16:10 p.m. We finished last chapter 5 on shielding strategies. I took notes. I hope you did. Disclaimer. This is for entertainment purposes only. The opinions written in this book are not mine. I did not write them in this book, so I'm just reading it. We're going to pick back up on, ma'am. We're going to pick back up on page 149, safe rooms. This is about a 22-page chapter, so I will get through as much as I can. But it might need to be a part 2. We'll see. So we're moving to page 149. I'll show you the cover of the book. That is one of those giant, awful Nexrad towers. That is one of those giant, awful Nexrad towers that we will soon all be connected to. Those of us that consider themselves TIs are likely already connected to them. And pretty much everyone, I guess, that they fucking broadcast around. Do forgive me, though. I am still sick. I made myself a little special drink. It's called a Skeleton, and I'm probably saying that wrong because I'm not Irish, to my knowledge. Look, stop! It's got all types of herbs in it, and some oat milk, and a little bit of whiskey. Perfect for a sore throat. Yeah. A couple of videos back, I was coughing like a mofo, and a couple of these have definitely made me feel a little bit better. First one of the day, though. Look, stop. So, without further ado, let's get to it. This chapter is on safe rooms. Protecting an entire house with shielding that is strong enough to resist energy weapons is next to impossible for most people. The cost alone would be well above $50,000 or more, depending on the size of the house and the materials used. Some new homes are being constructed with EMF shielding features such as outer walls and roofs reinforced with grounded copper plates, but the costs are enormous. Even coating a house with a thin layer of EMF paint would cost thousands of dollars with very little effectiveness. That's why making military-grade armor, according to our specifications, for less than $500 is the cheapest and most effective solution, despite the obvious inconveniences associated with wearing armor. As we mentioned earlier, there are technologies that can penetrate outer shielding no matter what you use. Armor is still the best form of protection given the type of weapons that we're up against. While wearing armor might have an impact on your social life, so will being targeted with energy weapons. I don't know about y'all, but I'd choose ostracism and outcast any day to have the protection of fucking armor. Legit. In any case, having a shielded room is still a must and will make your armor much more effective. And I've got 2 images to show you. Here's one image of a EMF shielded room or ELF shielded room. Safe room. Right, got your purse in there. And then here's the image on the next page of a fella just looking real fucking comfy in that room. Smoking a cigarette. He looks super comfy. I wonder who that is. Is that Ron Johnson? The idea of a safe room is to make shielded environment that is highly effective against radiation attacks. Using EMF paint is perhaps the most tempting choice due to its ease of application and because it's easy to conceal. The paint, however, doesn't really work and is on the market to sucker you into false sense of security and to drain your resources. Even though EMF paint can be applied uniformly without gaps or seams, which makes it attractive in theory, it won't be thick enough to stop energy weapons, not even close. Certain EMF paints may work well against telecom radiation, but it's not designed to withstand high powered beam weapons like DEWs. In most cases, EMF paint will not pass a conductivity test with a multimeter either, which means the concentration of EMF blocking particles in the paint is relatively low, making your own paint with EMF blocking powders such as iron or graphite or magnetite may be a cheaper and more effective option than using ready made paint. But then again, none of it will be a standalone solution against energy weapons. Um, yeah, alright, I'll just show you these two images as well. We've got a nice, fucking nasty looking tower on a grocery store somewhere in the south, it looks like. And then in this image, we've got this lovely tower at your local church. Pray to your gods and then be mind controlled to keep being good little whatevers. Praying to your gods. No offense for God-fearing people. 154. There may be situations where you need more than one room. For the sake of this discussion, we will be looking at the best option for a single room. The best choice for a safe room will be the bedroom because you will need to sleep somewhere and the worst attacks will happen late at night. Trust me, don't I know it. Motherfucker out here losing sleep every day. If I set an alarm, they wake me up 4 hours before my alarm goes off so that I stay up for 2 hours, go back to sleep for 2 hours, and then wake back up. We're not going to get into the dreams yet. We'll get into that in another episode, or whatever. And we do mean worst. Having a safe bedroom to sleep in is a must if you're serious about surviving a siege. Body armor will fill in the gaps until you can build additional safe rooms, such as the living room, kitchen, bathroom, and hallways. That means you may need armor to sleep in and cook in until your shielding can sufficiently protect you. And in most cases, sleeping with armor and an additional protection will become a must. Lots of images of these lovely towers. Running water in the shower can protect you as you wash up, but besides that, you'll be completely exposed until shielding is applied. The primary safe room should be on the top floor of your residence, since the worst attacks will come from underground. Basements are better suited against other forms of radiation attacks, but the ELF attacks are so devastating that there will be little choice, so prepare for that contingency. The higher... I just got a body ping on the that's not true or negative side. So this V2K fuckers, I think, are telling me that basements are perhaps not. Yeah, I got a confirmatory ping on the other side. So basements are not better suited against other forms of radiation, according to the body pings. Let's see. But the evil attacks are so devastating that there will be little choice, so prepare for that contingency. The higher you are off the ground, the better you'll be against the ELF attacks, but the worse it will be for attacks coming from cell towers and air traffic. It's obviously better to be living in a house than in an apartment during a siege-type scenario as well. Having a hugely powerful energy weapon on the other side of a thin wall could become impossible to protect against in an apartment-type setting. Distance is the most important variable to control the risk factor equation when it comes to energy weapons. The closer they are, the worse the effect is by orders of magnitudes. What makes matters worse is that grounding paths will most likely be compromised in an apartment complex because grounding connections in the wall sockets can be remotely deactivated via smart meters, and there will be few other ways to ground in that setting. Even if you were to reach the ground would most likely be saturated with electricity. This will be covered in depth in the grounding chapter. So towers everywhere. In any case, if you don't have access to a reliable ground, then you will have to use 10 times more shielding materials than in a grounded single home environment. Living in an apartment is basically the worst case scenario for a targeted individual, and a ground floor apartment is the absolute worst case scenario due to ELF attacks that come from underground. Current housing prizes are made to make people as vulnerable as possible during this energy weapon-based extermination program. Escaping the kill box of an apartment will be nearly impossible for most that are there, and so the only real option is to turn that location into a fortified fucking bunker. Flavor text. Building a safe room begins by focusing on its outer shell. The first mission is to make a Faraday cage or a partial Faraday cage. This can be done with sheet metal, metal mesh, aluminum foil, or mylar. The thicker the material, the better, but using foil is much cheaper and is easiest option to apply. Grounded foil is rated surprisingly well against telecom radiation and moderately weakens energy weapon attacks. While it's safe to say that no Faraday cage made out of hardware store materials will be strong enough to resist sustained attacks from high-powered weapons, any cage or shield will help dampen the attack so that other layers of your shielding strategy can work better. It is possible to apply wallpaper on top of the foil or cage material for appearance's sake if needed. 160. 1 second. That's so good. Applying each section of material to the walls and ceilings can take days or over a week. In the case of aluminum foil, you will probably need $40 worth of your grocery store's thickest foil to do a medium-sized room. Not a relatively small room, so. Begin by placing the aluminum foil on the ground, and then extending the foil from the ground to the ceiling or as high as your arms can reach. Tape each vertical section into place and move left to right around the room. Make sure each vertical column overlaps the neighboring column so that there are no gaps in between the columns. Add tape to troubled spots so that the foil is as flush as possible against the walls. Additional support may be necessary to keep the foil attached to the walls, such as nails, tacks, putties, or glues. Cleaning surfaces beforehand can help the shielding in place, and so can using better tape. Be sure to apply lots of pressure to the tape with a tool or a handle on tough-to-reach spots to make the outer shell as stable as possible. Be sure to inspect the outer wall regularly for weak spots and loose sections. Electrically connecting each section of your Faraday cage is the next time-consuming step. We recommend aluminum foil tape to connect the vertical columns in series and to test for conductivity with a multimeter. I'm going to show you this option for people who live like in the East Coast or where they have like these super high rise apartment buildings. When I was out in New York in August for family vacay, or for my own vacay to visit my family, man, I saw panels just like that on top of my aunt's building, and damn, that was frustrating. And she's on the top fucking floor, or somewhere up at the top floor, I think, or the second to top, whatever. And it was very fucking frustrating. Just looking out the window and being able to see those fucking panels. Like, I don't want to be this close to that shit. 162. Adding resistors, capacitors, inductors, ferrite beads, or frequency filters to the outer shell can be beneficial despite what your electrician might say. Foil, like every material, has a certain capacitance when it comes to absorbing EMF, and even though it might be grounded, EMF surges or fluxes in the foil can overload the ground wire connections. Adding cheap resistors to foil shielding can add additional capacitance during an energy flux, and while it may not make a huge difference, everything helps during a siege. To add resistors, apply aluminum foil tape to both ends of the resistor and fix it everywhere on the foil. Frequency filters can be added to the foil as well, but doing so can be challenging. We recommend doing research on how to build high-pass and low-pass filters on the internet. But it is possible to build them yourself simply from resistors and capacitors. They will have to be placed in a certain way so that the current flows in from one side and out the other, back to the foil somewhere in the middle of the Faraday circuit. Essentially, the filter will have to be a choke point in the Faraday loop. Using both high-pass and low-pass filters in a series can have added effects, but they must be grounded independently from the foil, and in theory, there must be enough juice going through the foil to charge the capacitors to complete the circuit. Hi, Lux. Looks like another, like maybe the back of a hotel or a bed and breakfast, something like that, and it's another tower. You want to come say hi? All right, we'll take a quick little break. You want to come say hi? You want to come say hi? You want to come say hi? Come here. Okay. Oh, hello. Say hello. This is my Luxie, my love. This is my Luxie, my love. Oh, baby. She's mad I'm not giving her attention right now. I've had a kind of a busy day with running errands and practicing violin. I've uploaded a couple of videos a little while ago, or at least one video. I uploaded one video with my progress. Or maybe she just really wants pity scritches, is what I call them. If a dog loves you enough to let you scratch their armpits, they can't reach there. They can't reach there. Oh, mama. Yeah. You're mad because I put a diaper on you, huh? Okay, mama, get down. I want to keep reading. Go on, get down. Go on. Watch yourself. Watch yourself. All right. Sorry about that. I would have paused it, but I don't know. People love dogs. She's adorable. So putting them together incorrectly, however, can jeopardize your entire shielding strategies. So if you do try out a filter system, do it in a way that it can quickly be removed and replaced with foil tape instead. Using an inductor as a frequency choke can also produce a filtering effect and is recommended for testing. Be sure to double check connectivity in your shielding with a multimeter everywhere you can, because conductivity is what makes Faraday cages. Even just a little aluminum foil tape between sections as a junction is sufficient to bridge the electrical gap in your shielding and is the best way for you to add upgrades as well. After finishing the walls, come to the ceilings. Completely covering the ceiling may seem like a good idea, but it may have unintended effects. Since attacks originating from underground are a huge problem, fuckers, completely covering the ceiling may turn the ceiling into a giant reflector dish for underground attacks, and that will turn your safe room into a microwave oven. Every internet connection in your safe room has to be hardwired with Ethernet cables, and every device should regularly be tested with an EMF meter as well, otherwise you will feel the effects. To avoid echo chamber effects, we recommend shielding above the bed where you sit in the safe room, most in the safe room, but to leave some open gaps on the ceiling and the floor to help dissipate unwanted EMF accumulation. The standard recommendation is to connect the walls of a Faraday cage into a loop, but field testing is inconclusive on that design. Loop designs work better on paper, but against energy weapons, looped shielding can become a giant resonator. Much depends on the level of attacks that hit the outer shell. Using variations of the Faraday cage idea can bring us more effective concepts. Using a series of partial cages that are configured as levels can have Lux. Lux. Using a series of partial cages that are configured as levels can have advantages based on field testing as long as everyday line of sight angle is taken into consideration. It is difficult to determine which works best because energy weapons will blow right through the outer shielding regardless of what you... Lux! Okay, come on, Mama. You gotta go. Go. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that. Go on. Shh. Where was I? She's completely distracted me. Jeez. Let's see. It is difficult to determine which works best because energy weapons will blow right through your shielding regardless of what you try. Multiple Swiss cheese cages may be a better configuration to avoid echo chamber effects when using reflective materials such as foils. An outer shell of mylar with an inner shell of aluminum foil separated by a middle layer of plastic sheeting will probably be the best strategy to aim for as a startup project. leaving strategic gaps in the floor and ceiling to dissipate EMF accumulation and use another inner partial cage for the best protection. Test the layers in looped or unlooped configurations by designing a junction point to determine what works best under fire. Why do they even use this picture? It's so blurry. All right, I'm going to show you two pictures, and then I'm going to keep reading from page 166. This image is from 166. Wow, it's less blurry on my camera. It's super blurry on the book. That looks like some kind of weird portable fucking do is what that is in the back of a truck. Fucking dicks. Oh, and then here's the next page, 167. You know who that is, right? Oh, yeah. I was gonna do an Elon Musk impersonation. I don't listen to that guy enough to know some shit that he would say. Oh, yeah, load the truck. We're gonna load the truck with the two. We're gonna. GG. Fuck. The main problem with Faraday cage is that every shielding material has a maximum capacity before it begins to leak or resonate. One more juice flows into the shielding that can be dissipated by grounding or absorption. The shielding saturates like a sponge and begins to overflow. Fuck. I don't know anything about engineering or metalwork and all that shit, so I'll have to keep doing some research and read this book. Additional layers can catch some of that spill, but most energy weapons will still penetrate through standard shielding materials like the sound of a diesel engine running outside your home. Where did he wear that devil armor to? Lux, please stop. My dear, I need you to go sit down so I can finish this chapter. Go on. Go. Go. Alright, we're almost done. Actually, I've got about halfway down. That's why you will probably still need to wear armor unless you apply thick multi-layered shielding to your safe room. The better the shielding is on the outer shells, the more effective the outer shielding materials inside the safe room will become. Pain will be your measuring stick when it comes to how effective your shielding strategy is, and it will be your main motivator for adding more shielding. Since the safe room will be the room where you'll be spending most of your time, you'll want to furnish it appropriately to act as your main living room as well as your bedroom. That means you will want to reinforce the bed and chairs with shielding as much as possible. Planks of sheet metal around and under your sitting area will become necessary. Mega shielding around and underneath the bed will be required as well to even sleep during a siege. It can take up to 3 inches of lead and an inch of grounded sheet metal under the bed for starters. To stop ELF attacks from underground. HDPE coated with magnetite resins is especially helpful here as is the addition of mylar. ELF attacks interrupt sleep, which can cause you to feel tired even after a long night's rest. ELF attacks can also cause sleep apnea, heart palpitations, and even very painful heart attacks that kill. So spare no expense when it comes to shielding under the bed. Don't I know it? That's where, when I was living back in the valley, that's when I felt my last heartbeat before they completely stopped it. And I know who did it too. That person is in some YouTube videos at the very beginning of my video list. One of the 2 people circled in red. Yep. He's also in the video mentioned called Dox Him. But good luck. He's since becoming a perp. Those couple years back on the fucking mountaintops in the pot farm of Laytonville has taken coding and all types of fucking. At least that's what I was told by him before I fucking stopped talking to him. Piece of shit. Spare no expense when it comes to shielding your bed. Additional planks of magnetite-laden HDPE will become necessary for the entire length of your body to stop ELF as emitters are drilled closer to your home. The bed frame should be surrounded with at least 1 to 2 millimeter planks of sheet metal that can be fitted with an elevator door configuration for entry. Interesting. Adding a sliding mechanism to the elevator door is optional, but watch your feet as planks of sheet metal can drop and slice if handled improperly. Using EMF blankets made of fabric and, at times, a lead blanket will be necessary to complete the protection from aerial attacks. Sleeping in a netted cage is not recommended as it will significantly cut your airflow and the EMF netting tends to be inadequate for heavy attacks. World Economic Forum. I don't know who this guy is. Who's this guy? Page 169. Who's this guy? I don't know who that is. The chair, couch, or recliner you use to sit in will also have to be shielded in a way similar to the bed. While you might think we're kidding, experiencing these attacks firsthand will definitely change your mind instantly. The idea is to make an iron chariot so that you can sit in. Layers of shielding under the chair and on the chair will be necessary, so never think it'll be excessive. Most chairs and beds have a maximum load capacity, so approach the shielding strategy with caution. Nothing worse than having your chair or bed collapse due to weight because you'll have to replace them and start all over again. It can be difficult to judge when you've reached the max limit, and so sometimes reinforcing furniture with tape or glue before adding shielding will make sense. While the picture we're painting here is not pretty, it is much better than trying to deal with the pain, because the pain, of course, will evolve into a terrible condition. And don't I know it? These motherfuckers got malware in all my organs. All of them. Yep. 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 The last paragraph of this chapter. Difficult choices will have to be made in terms of time and resources if you come under attack. Making a safe room becomes a logical step because it's vastly inferior to armor. When it comes to building protection under fire, we recommend fast and easy applications of aluminum foil or armor for your armor and for your safe room until equipment can be deployed. Going into remote locations during the day to make armor while staying up late to apply foil to walls will help you get through the ambush that leads to a siege. All right. We'll keep this one a slightly shorter one. The next chapter is called the tile system. And I have no idea what that means. I think it's about how to properly build armor. But we will come back next week. Or maybe sometime soon. Who knows? Depending on what kind of time I have. I have a busy week coming up. I have 2 job interviews lined up. And one of them seems a lot more promising than the other. And so, wish me luck on that. I would love to be able to afford to make my room as completely unsafe as it is a safe room. I'm 100% vulnerable to attacks anywhere, everywhere, all the time. And I don't have any shielding or grounding or anything like that on or under my bed or anything. No. No, ma'am. No. Get back. Anything like that. So sometime soon, I'll get gainful employment, even though they tell me I won't. They tell me that's not going to happen. or it might happen, or shit like that, shit that gets repeated every day. Um, you know, every time I get another job, they always tell me this is the last job you're ever gonna have. It's the last job you're ever gonna have. Look, I know you want attention. Like, come on, dude. Um, so, with that being said, with that being said, um, I'll catch you guys soon for the next chapter. Try to stay positive, even though that may seem extremely difficult. Um, Pick up some hobbies. Try to channel your energy. And ma'am, she's mad. Ma'am, stay up, stay safe, stay frosty.